Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hey, welcome to, should I call this the quarantine / jet lag / Jakarta episode or Jakarta edition? Regardless, I have made my way all the way to Indonesia and I'm recording this not too early. It is around 9:25 a.m. Monday morning for me, which for those of you listening, it will still be Monday. So I'm like 12 hours ahead of Seattle time. But it's been so crazy. So I thought with this episode, I'd just share like my whole travel journey so far of coming to Jakarta from Mexico and just like this crazy journey. And right now I'm quarantining in a hotel in Jakarta. Good thing it's only 5 days. And at the same time, I'm dealing with jet lag. So it actually is like the perfect mix because I can't leave. So it's a good time to work on, adjusting to the time zone here. So I left Playa Del Carmen on Thursday last week. And it was basically 3 flights to get to Jakarta. The flight, oh my gosh, it was very smooth, very easy. I thought I would be way more tired than I was, but my first leg was from Playa del Carmen to LA, and that was around 5 hours. And that was, pretty easy. I brought enough food for me to survive because they only came around with almonds and some water, and that was it for 5 hours. Oh my goodness. I just love international flights versus domestic flights, or US based airlines. So getting myself to LA, and then I was a little bit concerned when I was in LA if I could manage to get to the check-in in time for putting in my luggage because timing was really tight, but we ended up arriving earlier, and so I was able to check my bag okay, and the lady at the Singapore airline was really sweet, and she wrapped my bag up because it's basically a big backpack, and she wrapped it up in this saran wrap so that it could be protected. And then I had plenty of time for my red-eye flight from LA to Singapore. And that was a 16 plus hour flight. So it was an hour shorter than what they said. And I kid you not, the plane was practically empty. So basically everybody had the whole row to themselves. I had a whole row to myself. And I think that was what made the trip seem so much faster. If I wasn't watching something on one of the movie screens, then I was eating. And if I wasn't eating, I was sleeping. And I kid you not, time went by so fast. I was like, wow, that was 16 hours. It probably felt like 9. It felt like 9 hours, not 16, which meant I actually had sleep. I was able to sleep, even though it's just so weird because the flight out from LA, it was the evening of the 3rd. And then by the time I landed in Singapore, it was the morning of the 5th. So it's I totally time traveled and skipped a day. It was just crazy. So June 4th kind of was bloop. And then we landed in June 5th. And then in Singapore, I had another maybe an hour layover until my flight to Jakarta. And the flight to Jakarta from Singapore was only maybe 90 minutes. But because of, the whole pandemic, I don't think Singapore Airlines is actually really open, or they just really sectioned off an area for a lot of us travelers who were just transiting through Singapore. So it didn't matter where you were transiting to, but we were all kind of held in just one section of the airport. And so they called my, my gate for my flight number to board my flight to go to Jakarta. So once we boarded that, literally they fed us again. So it's like even a 90-minute flight, I was fed breakfast, which makes me so appreciate international flights outside of the US anyway. Yeah, and then so here I am. I am in my quarantine hotel. I'm in day 3. And it's actually 5 nights and 6 days. So it hasn't been too bad. I mean, I've been a little bit bored occasionally, but I do have work I need to get done. I do have, I have online streaming and I have a book. So, and then I have access to, the internet. So it hasn't been too terrible. And they feed me pretty well here, 3 meals a day. And then I have some snacks, and then they give me enough food that if I wanted to, I could save the meal, some of the stuff for later. So far it's been good. The jet lag is interesting because I don't feel it so deeply, except I'll be like, oh, okay, it's 9 p.m. or it's 8 p.m. And then I'm like, I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep. And I kid you not, like, I feel like I slept for at least 6 hours, and I wake up and it's only like 3 hours that have gone by or 4 hours that have gone by. And on both nights, every time I woke up after after going to sleep, it's always been midnight. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? And so it's just been, this is the thing with jet lag, which it doesn't really bother me because I always feel like with jet lag, it's like a transitory time. And whenever we're transitory and transitioning, it's always like an opportunity to do things out of routine. And it makes it a little bit more fun in a way. But it gets old really quick. So I'm hoping that by the time I check out, I'll be, in sync with the time zone here. Before I left for Mexico, I had to get a PCR test, and oh my goodness, it was so awful. I was really concerned that I wasn't going to be able to endure, because I had to do 2 more of it when I am in Jakarta. Literally, like, the person who was doing the test, like, I don't know, I felt like they were swabbing for brain matter. They were up there forever with a Q-tip, and my eyes started watering. I felt like I was getting a nosebleed. Even after the test, I felt like the Q-tip was up there for another 2 hours, and it just made me not feel good for the rest of the day. And so, I was so grateful that when I landed in Jakarta and I got the transportation to my hotel, before they brought me up to my room, I had to go to another PCR test, and it was so much nicer this time around. So I was just very grateful, and hopefully my last one, the one that I have to do the day before I check out, hopefully it'll be just as easy. So that's been just a really quick rundown of the whole traveling to get here so far. A lot of paperwork, and I'm someone who's very meticulous about paperwork and making sure I have everything in order. So getting through the border and customs and all of that was a breeze. And one of the things is I wanted to just share, like, it's really important to always speak up for yourself and not be afraid to ask for what you want. I know that for me, it's always stretching that muscle, because sometimes I'm like, is it going to be inconvenient? Am I asking for too much? And sometimes I find myself, like, my brain will start making up stories, limiting stories that tells me why I should not ask or why it's not a big deal. So when I first got to my hotel for the quarantine, I was a little disappointed with the room. It felt a little old. There were, like, water spots on the ceiling. The bathroom light wasn't working. The sink wasn't draining. It literally, like, a pool of water would just sit there for hours. And it wasn't clean at all. I was going to be stuck in the room for 5 days, but I was like, well, should I complain? Like, it's quarantine. I feel like once I'm in the room, I shouldn't leave. Maybe they'll say, no, this is the room that you're assigned to. I also paid for this room, by the way. And I was like, no, this is not acceptable. This is, like, not according to my standards. So I called the front desk and I explained to them that I wanted a new room. And the lady was like, oh, I don't know if we have any available. I was like, yeah, I still want a new room. So anyway, she said she was going to call me back, and I waited. She never called me back. So I called back to inquire an update, and I'm so glad. Like, I was just very persistent after I decided I made my request. And I complained over to the manager over WhatsApp, and I took photos, just very unsatisfied. And when I called back the second time, the lady was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't actually see the request come through. This is the first time I've heard this. Let me see what I can do." And then I had to call back again because I didn't hear an update. And yeah, so finally, I think it was so weird because I was so tired after like 24 hours of traveling. I was sweaty, I was dirty. Getting from my apartment to even the airport, I was sweating, right? Because I was like waiting at the bus stop and carrying my luggage, like all of it. It was just like I just couldn't wait to shower, and I was tired, so I wanted to sleep, but I didn't want to. And then they brought lunch over, so I didn't want to get started on any of this until I was in my new room. And finally, like I realized I wasn't gonna get my new room anytime soon. So then I showered in the old room and had my food. And then I got really tired. And so I finally got a hold of another reception person, and they said, "Are you willing to wait till tomorrow morning?" And I was like, "No, it has to be tonight. I do not want to sleep in this room." And she said, "Okay, but it won't be until later in the evening, maybe 7, 8, or 9 o'clock. She's like, "I don't really know." And I was like, "That's fine. I just want to move out of the room tonight." And so after that, I just took a nap. And that was around 5 p.m. And then an hour later, I got a call, and they said, "Hey, we're able to move you now. Your room is ready." And I was so happy. And so after I packed up, I had to wait for like another hour for them to bring me the key to my new room. Oh my goodness. And here I am. The room is better. It is a little bit cleaner. It doesn't have that moldy, musty smell. And the AC works better. So I just feel like it was worth the hassle. And it's just one of those things where don't ever worry about being inconvenient to other people or creating a story in your head that, "Oh, you shouldn't do this." Like, be careful of the thoughts that run through your mind that tell you things that tell you a story that you can't do it. Even something like this, right? It's like, it makes so much sense as I'm telling you the story. When you're listening to it, you'll be like, "Yeah, of course, like you should totally complain," right? If you're not satisfied with a meal at a restaurant, send it back. You know what I mean? Or like make a comment about it because you want to enjoy your experience, and especially when you're paying for it. And you don't have to be like snotty about it. You can be polite about it, but be firm. And it's something that I'm always like, the hassle of having to complain, it feels kind of negative sometimes, but no, it's like we all have our standards, we all have our desires, and we want our needs met. And so my ask was incredibly reasonable. And with the bathroom light not working and the sink being clogged, that should have not happened, right? But it's sometimes like we tolerate bullshit. And one of the things that I have learned is I'm no longer tolerating bullshit. And it's like, I gotta be aware of like the limiting stories that my brain will still tell me. So I wanted to share that because, even like this is part of the personal growth. Even like there's so many examples I can share where I've always had to like speak up for myself and stand up for myself. There's always like this filter, like, or should I not? Should I complain? Should I speak up? And always speak up, even if it doesn't feel natural, if it feels like an inconvenience. You are not an inconvenience. I'm not an inconvenience. And like, it's not a big deal when we speak up for what we want, especially when it's something within a service industry, like where it is related to hospitality. They do want to make sure that everybody has a good stay. And the ask that I asked was not a big ask. It was very reasonable. So yeah. And it's interesting because I also think sometimes you have to pick your battles of like, how much energy do you have or do you want to put in? After I arrived in my new room, I'm supposed to get 5 bottles of water daily. And they only had 2. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to survive on 2 bottles of water. So I called them to ask them to bring me more water. And they only brought me 2 more. And I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, I'm supposed to get 5 bottles of water. And I was like, I don't want to call again to complain and ask them to bring another one up. And I just figured if I run out of water, I'll ask for more. And And then the lady on the WhatsApp, the manager, she finally responded after I moved to my new room. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I just got this. Are you, have you settled into your new room? Are you pleased with everything? And I just mentioned, yeah, everything's fine. I am missing a bottled water, but it's fine. If I need more, I'll just call in. And she said, oh, no, that's okay. We will send you more. So they brought up another 4 bottles of water. And so now I have a surplus. And it's just like, it's okay. Like, we get to choose our battles, and it's okay to speak up for ourselves. So that's been my journey here so far. It's I can't believe I'm almost in Bali. Just have to get through 3-ish more days, and take a short flight. It's like a almost 2-hour flight to get to Bali. And then when I'm there, I will have 7 days in my Airbnb, where during those 7 days, I'll look for my quote unquote permanent villa, where I'll be renting monthly. So I still have to do research on that, but I'll do it when I arrive in Bali, because I want to be able to visit the place, and just kind of get a feel of where I really want to be. So anyway, by the time you hear from me next week, I will be in Bali. So more to come. And as always, if you really want to follow me real time, check me out on Insta stories or Facebook stories. And so I am I'm 12 hours ahead. Basically, it's so interesting. I'm literally 12 hours ahead from Seattle time. And I just realized, like, when we international travel, it doesn't have to be international, but whenever we're traveling to different time zones, time is so relative. And this is what time traveling is. It's so relative. It's one of those things where we do not need to limit ourselves to time. Any type of concept around time is all made up. So if you have a business, it doesn't have to take a long time for you to be successful. It's like, our concept of time is very linear, and even through traveling from Mexico to Indonesia or even to Singapore, it was like a blip. I don't know, June 4th just came and went, and I landed on June 5th. And I just felt it so viscerally this time, that shit does not need to take long. Like, it can happen fast if we set that intention, and if we embody the fact that time is not really linear. It's just our human-made concept of time is linear, but when we are in our body, like, it's our present moment that we're experiencing, that makes it way more meaningful. And when we can release anything related to time, money, all of that, it becomes exponential. So I wanted to share that. More to come on all of this, and have a beautiful, beautiful upcoming week wherever you're at, and more to come. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.